Hello, friends. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to another episode of Sassy AF TV Live. That's how I'm feeling today. I'm feeling the singing voice is coming out, so watch out, friends. Make sure if you are watching this live, please say hello wherever you are from in the world. Tell us where you're from. If you are signed into StreamYard and you can leave a comment, please feel free. And if you have any questions, always happy to answer them. So I have a couple of housekeeping items. Number one is this is actually my last live stream of Sassy AF TV Live for 2020. I cannot believe it. That is insane that we are at the end of the year. It's absolutely crazy. But I will be back in January with more guests, more fun, all the good stuff. I might still pop up live. We'll see. Maybe you'll get a surprise for me in the next couple of weeks, but no more official live shows. That said, I have a couple of things in the can that will be coming out both on the YouTube channel and also on the Sassy AF Audio Experience podcast. So make sure you are subscribed so that you're following all the places, you know all the things going on. Don't forget the podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and it just got published to Pandora Podcasts. So check that out, the Sassy AF Audio Experience podcast. So those are my housekeeping items. Oh, and before I forget, I want to share, and I'm going to be sharing this with my guests later, but Sassy AF affirmation card decks are available. They make awesome holiday gifts, and I think I can still get them to you with shipping before Christmas if you order now. So go to my website, sassyhealthy.fit. You can grab your deck now. Free shipping in the US, so give them a try. They're super fun. They make really great holiday gifts. Lots of fun. All right, let's talk about my amazing guest that's here with us today. I have with us Miss Sejal Thakkar. Let me read you her bio, and then I'm going to bring her on screen. Dubbing herself Chief Civility Officer, Sejal is not your average employment law attorney. Her more than 15 years of experience advising clients, human resources personnel, and legal counsel regarding sound standard employment practices, uncovering a need and personal passion for bringing more proactive, relevant, and impactful workplace training programs to her clients and their teams. Her highly experiential, customized workshops tailored to executives, managers, and individual contributors bring the courtroom to the training room in an interactive, engaging environment that favors human stories over compliance checklists. And you will see what I'm talking about when I bring on Sejal. Welcome.
Hey, thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. You are so fun. I have to say, we were just saying before we hit live that we were having such a fun conversation. We should have just hit live a little bit sooner.
Well, we always do.
We always do. But that's what I love. So when you talk about being engaging, when you're talking about law, employment law, workplace training, etc., you really mean it. I love that.
Yeah, totally. I'm 100% in. And actually, whenever when I was listening to you kind of give my introduction, I'm like, wow, I just love what I do. It doesn't even really feel like work. And so when I hear somebody else saying it, I'm like, but that makes it seem like I'm actually working for that. And I work hard, don't get me wrong, but it's so much. I love what I do. So it's just, I'm so lucky to and blessed to be able to do the stuff that I do.
That's so cool. And I wanted you to share a little bit about that. I know you've been on a ton of podcasts recently, which is amazing. So congratulations on that. And of course, I was doing a little bit of homework and listening to you all over the place. You're on like the podcast circuit, which I love because your message is really relevant and important. And one of the things that really stands out to me, Sejal, about the work that you do is how you are such a champion for civility and humanity and compassion. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about your own journey and how you got to this place of championing, it's a hard word to say, championing these things that not a lot of people are brave enough and courageous enough to stand up for.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I for as long as I can remember, I always sort of found myself like being that person that wants to understand where everybody's coming from. And I just remember doing that from like childhood, and then to be honest, like I never really felt like I ever fit in anywhere. So I always felt like an outsider kind of looking into situations. And so just looking at life and going through my career as an attorney and trainer and just kind of everything that sort of led me to the point where I am right now is really sort of focused in on how can I help people understand each other a little bit better and get along better, because I think that there's just so much that goes on that we forget what drives us. And that just really drives me. The social justice, all of the things I champion, like the Black Lives Matter, and I do a lot of stuff with the transgender community and just disabled folks, and just whatever my heart is drawn to is really sort of to just help in whatever way. What part can I do in sort of getting us all to that point? And so that's a lot of what drives what I do. And the only other thing I would add about that is I think that we all need to do a little more of that, right? So I'm kind of taking a bigger risk because I'm going all out there, but I think we can all do more. And so I would just, anybody that's listening or watching this, I would just say, do your part, whatever that is, but kind of go out of your comfort zone a little bit and go for it, And you're doing that too, Hallie. So I know that you get that. Yeah.
Well, so what I find fascinating about that is I was just doing, you'll appreciate this. So my husband has an IT company. I know we've talked about this before, and we just had to do our harassment training, which is mandated, at least in the state of California. I don't know if it's mandated everywhere, but we just did it last week. And one of the things that the trainer brought up was that we talked about this psychological phenomenon, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's like when somebody needs help and there's a crowd of people around, people are less likely to step in because they assign responsibility to other people, right? They're like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, or I don't need to get personally involved because someone else will do it, right? So you deflect and you back away, and it's like this psychological phenomenon I remember studying in college. But I love how what you just said is we all need to step in a little bit more to do our part. So how did you kind of break through that psychological barrier yourself to be such a powerful advocate?
And it's a work in progress. Seriously, you're constantly to be able to do the work, where like a lot of the stuff, for example, one example is the unconscious bias stuff I'm doing. You can't train that. You can't teach other people that until you do the work yourself, And I realized that self sort of reflection and learning about myself, which I've been doing my whole life, right? But to be able to understand that, wow, I need to hold myself accountable, like for whatever I bring, and until you do that work, I just don't think you can be effective at it, So what I will tell people is this: for me personally, when I got to a point where I was like, okay, where am I being pulled at? What is something that's calling me? And I really realized that I can't do that, which is to help move the needle on creating cultures of dignity and respect. I can't do that until I'm a leader and I actually am doing the work and I'm vulnerable and transparent. So if you look at all my LinkedIn stuff, that's me. If you want to know anything about me, that's who you're going to get when you bring in the door. And I think we all need to do that. And that's why your messages always resonate with me, Hallie, because you're also telling people the same thing. Like, you got to look in the mirror and do the work yourself first before you can do it for anybody else. Right. And I'm just doing that. So I'm kind of learning as I go.
That is so cool. I'm glad you admit that, because I say that too. And I love the vulnerability factor. Like, there's no shame, right? So let's call in Brene Brown. I mean, someday Brene Brown is going to be on my show. But how she just breaks down this barrier to entry with shame and vulnerability. And we don't need to have it all figured out. Like, it's not about, I mean, I grew up thinking that I had to have it all figured out, like super perfectionist, people pleaser. But I realized that was just a defense mechanism for myself. And it really was this veil that didn't allow me to truly be me. And once I finally, took that down, is when I could finally show up and share these messages in this kind of imperfect way that's much more resonant.
Totally what I'm doing, like, again, going back to the bias stuff, I keep going back to that just because I'm doing the work. And as I do this work, I'm like, whoa, so what we really think the reality is nothing, right? Like, we just see a little sliver. And so as I see more of that, I'm more motivated to show other people there's more of that. Like, look, I just did a training this morning, right? And it was like 20 people on the call, and I'm talking about unconscious bias and how to mitigate that. And Literally 10 out of 10. I mean, every single person was impacted by that training. Why? Because I'm sharing my examples. I'm telling them the work that I'm doing. Like all my trainings are all storytelling. So I'm telling them, like, a friend of mine just pointed this out about myself. So I'm actually showing them, like, there's no shame in doing this work. It's okay. There's no guilt. There's no judgment, but you can do it differently moving forward. And I'm all about that. Like, I think we can do that. We just have to make that decision. And so I've just made that decision for myself. Like, and I know you have, and I know, like, a lot of the people that we're surrounded with right now are of the same mindset, right? Like, a lot of the people are always kind of liking and so forth. We're all just doing the work, and we're saying, let's just move forward. And I'll tell you what, this year, I mean, I would never want to do it over again, but there are some really, really good silver linings coming out of it, right? And this is one of them. I think more people are ready to do that work, which is awesome.
Right. That's cool. I was going to ask, what is one of your biggest lessons or takeaways that you've had from 2020?
Wow, there are so many. There are seriously so many. My life has shifted significantly this year. I mean, but I would say that my biggest takeaway is that, it's possible. Like, don't limit yourself. Like, seriously, we thought so many things that we couldn't work from home and we can't do this and kids can't homeschool and all of this. And in a minute, it just changed. So I just feel like whenever there's going to be something that's going to come in my life that I'm going to feel like is a barrier, I'm like, whatever. Nope, that's not a barrier. We can overcome this. There's the other side, and I'm very optimistic moving forward. Very optimistic moving forward.
Do you notice a shift though? Like, do you feel like if in 2019, if you had been confronted with some of the same things, or would you have had that same mindset to say, I can do this. I can do whatever I want to do?
No. I mean, I took a huge leap of faith in myself when I started my company 3 years ago, right? So that's when I would say, I've done a lot of things. Like, I've gone to law school and all of this stuff, but that was like truly telling myself, like, I believe in you and you can do this, right? And I went for it. I didn't have clients lined up. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have any of that. I just made the decision that I was going to follow my passion, and I just threw 100%, like, all decks on, like, we're going for it, and full steam ahead. And that was the first time, right? But I feel like there were just so many walls around me. And a lot of that was just society and just our belief system, and all of those have shattered now. And it's a whole different it's a whole different level. And especially now that we've got the new administration coming in, I'm even more optimistic about just good things ahead,
Yeah, absolutely. I think our stories have so many parallels about, the time when you started your business, the time when you were ready to really break down your own walls. What was the biggest impetus for change and that shift, that catalyst that got you from, I'm doing the law thing, but it's not really serving me. I'm going to go all in on this new venture and I don't have it figured out?
Yeah. I mean, when my son was born 8 years ago, I left, a 6-figure salary at a really good law firm because I wanted to be at home with my son. And so that was the decision. And so I was at home for 3.5 years, and then I went back to work full time for UCSF Medical Center in San Francisco. And, that work environment wasn't the best. I had made it very clear going in that my priority was being at home with my son. I didn't want to work the grind of being a lawyer. And I made all of that very clear. I was very transparent, but I ended up just working a lot. And then I was missing out on my son's life. And then it wasn't the right environment for me. Let's just put it that way. So I wasn't really happy with the job. And then I wasn't getting to spend enough time with my son. And I knew something had to change. And I knew that there was also more I can bring to the table. Like, I was being very limited. I already knew I had a passion for training. And then that was another thing that when I was going into UCSF, I had made it very clear to people that this is my training is what I want to do, more training. And this is where my passion's at. And it was sort of like implied that I would get to do that. And I got to do some of that. And then I had to push a little bit more. I got to do a little bit more, but it just wasn't enough. And I wanted to have a bigger impact with what I have to say and what and so it's just, I just felt pulled in that direction. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take this risk right now. I think we have to take some risk. And I'm like, what's the worst case scenario? So I fall on my butt, and then I've got that law degree. It's got to be worth something, right? So I'm like, I can always go back to that if I need to, but let's just try this out, So yeah, it's been fun.
That's awesome. I mean, and so many people, that's where they stop. they don't ask that question, right? What is the worst case scenario?
Mhm.
They go down the rabbit hole of worst case scenario and they let that hold them back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is your motivation? What is your motivating factor? Were you raised that way? I mean, I've heard your story before and you talk about, you know, your parents coming over from India, moving to the States. I'm sure that was a huge transition and involved risk for them, right? So I imagine that this is a value in your family that you've witnessed since birth. So where does this come from, this passion?
I would say, you know, from just personally having gone through being harassed and discriminated against and bullied when I was growing up, that really was, you know, at some points, you know, I found myself acting out, you know, in situations, and I was, you know, I was rebelling in ways. I was talking back. I was fighting back. I was angry. I started feeling this rage coming out, you know, because of the way that I was being treated. And I literally just remember the exact time where I sat there and I said, you know, you keep doing this and you're going to, it's not good. Let's put it that way. Right. So figure out which way you want to go in life. And so I made a decision, you know, that I wasn't going to let other people define who I was. And I was going to just be, you know, where I felt my heart was going to lead. So I made that choice. And ever since that point, I've you know, law school was something I knew about very young, because I'm like, here I can advocate for people that are being sort of I'm drawn to the underdog, right? So I'm like, at least as a lawyer, I can assist in that way. And so it's just all sort of culminated into, you know, getting to that point, you know, where you're like, okay, I'm there. This feels good now. And I don't see myself now standing here. I don't see myself doing anything else besides what I'm doing now. Like I couldn't.
Right.
I just couldn't. Yeah.
And I love how you bring about this topic of choice. I heard you talking on the Red Bra Project on that podcast. I don't know if you remember this part of the conversation, but you talk about your choice and you said, look, I had the opportunity to either be a victim of circumstance or to go deeper and have the awareness. And I made the choice to choose awareness and moving forward. Yeah. But the piece that I really loved that I picked up on from that statement was, because I talk a lot about this too, about, you know, choosing not to be a victim of circumstance and choosing your own path. But how you took it to the next level, you said, but we all have to make our choice, and whatever you choose, it's all good. And I love your sense of compassion for all people is so beautiful and inspiring, because until I heard you say that a few days ago, I would have told you that anybody that came to me with the victim mentality, they were kind of like on my shit list, you know? And now I'm like, wait a second, how can I be more compassionate for somebody in that circumstance? So I just want to honor and appreciate that. And I'm curious, how do you come to this place? That's cool.
Thank you so much. I mean, that means a lot to me that you said that, you know, honestly, I don't think anybody's ever kind of said it just the way you did. So hearing that was just like, you know, but I just remember back then, you know, when I was being bullied there, and people have now that I'm talking about this more, right? This is just within the last like 3 years. And I'm talking about going through that. People have reached out to me from my high school that I've gone to school with, and they've said, even back then, dude, you kept your shit together. Like, you were getting angry and pissed off and whatever, but you were still always like nice to people, no matter what. And even some of them have like written on my LinkedIn page and written stuff about, you know, saying, if it was us, like we would have probably murdered someone, right? Like, because it's hard to go through that. I don't know, you know, I feel very just centered in that way. And I think it's just because I've thought about this a lot, because you know, I was telling somebody, it's the weirdest thing. Like I can walk in somewhere, right? And I know like all of the people that are, you know, like gay, lesbian, transgender, like just marginalized groups, like they just like, I find them coming to me and we just get attracted. Like it's just this magnet, right? And I think and I've like thought about that. And I think it's just because I really truly don't judge people. I don't judge them. Like, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to initially always give you the benefit of the doubt, right? And just trust that you're going to be a good person. And I'm pretty good at figuring out if you're not, right?
Like, if you're lying.
Yeah.
Like, bullshit. Sorry.
I know how to do credibility assessments. Like I could tell in it, you know, But I really go into it. And I don't care if you're a homeless person or, whoever, I'm still going to give you that respect, I guess you call it, like that initial respect. And then, you know what, like for it to grow, obviously there's going to have to be consistency between your behavior and your actions. And if that happens and our relationship naturally evolves, great. But if you like do things that are going to be hurtful or not good, then I'm going to be smart about it and I'm going to back away from that. Right. But I feel like, why is that people can't even get to that point?
Right.
Why? Like, I mean, all the people you're missing out on, think about that. You know, like how many people that you would walk by if you had that mentality where you're like, I'm just going to judge you on that. And then you're going to just keep walking, where all you're doing is relying on some assumptions that you're making about that person until you actually make the time to get to know people. But if you put the wall up from the beginning, you're not even giving that person a chance, right? So I feel like it's so, like, for me, it's so natural. And I guess that it works because when I tell people about it, they buy into it right now. So, but I do believe that, I truly believe that.
Well, first of all, I want to honor and acknowledge that it is a gift that you carry. So it is a gift that you carry. But I will tell you from my own experience, when I was growing up, and I had a very kind of bland childhood, I guess you could say, right? I lived in an upper middle class neighborhood. My skin is Caucasian. So my family is actually Jewish. But I lived in a very heavily Jewish populated city. So, even though that could be a marginalized group where I grew up, it was not, right? It was accepted. It was common. So I didn't really experience that sort of bias when I was growing up. However, I felt like I was kind of judged externally because I looked different. I was tall, I was heavy, I wore glasses for a short amount of time, I had big hair, like all these kind of external features that have really no bearing, but kids are mean. So that's just kind of what happens. But growing up, I was very quick to judge others. And really until I was in my 20s, when I was with my husband, when we first started dating, and he is a very non-judgmental person. And he would call me out on it and be like, babe, why are you judging people for XYZ? And I realized, now I really do my best to not judge, right? We all have some sense of judgment. It's hard to take that away completely. But I realized the reason that I was so quick to judge was because it was my own insecurity that it was drawing on. And so to make myself feel better, right? And this is where bullying comes from, right? It's usually drawn from insecurity. But if you don't know that, and you don't have this awareness that you've been talking about, then you just continue to do it. And it's this self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. No, and judgment could be good or bad, right? And that's the thing. It's just the way that our brain works. When you have all this information that's coming at it, right? You're going to make an assumption based on what you've gone through in your life at some point. So you see somebody, you don't know anything about them, right? And all of a sudden you're like, okay, that person is brown, so they must have money, or they don't have money, or they're going to be smart, or they drive this. It's just a natural response. We all do it, right? The point is to be able to recognize that you're doing it, right? And then not act on it. And that's really that's the bottom line, is that if you don't do the work and you don't actually have that basic awareness, that you don't have to judge people negatively. Like I just feel like people need to see, and I think there's a lot of us that are now trying to kind of raise awareness on this, and it's been going on for a long time. So I'm not saying that we're the first ones to do it.
Right.
I think the timing is good right now. I have a feeling that just from at least what I'm experiencing, people are more open to it. That's what I would say. Like this year has brought out it's really sort of leveled people. I feel like the playing, the leveling has gotten, everybody's on the same page now. It didn't matter. COVID hit you. It didn't matter what your race was. It didn't matter what religion you were. It didn't matter if you had red hair or blonde hair. It was going to hit. And so I think it really got people to the core to start thinking about what is really important to me. Right. And along that way, they started doing the work of self-reflection and started to see, wait, you know what? That's not right. I mean, who knows? I don't need to judge that person just because of these things that have been programmed into my mind, that I actually have a choice. I can do something about it. And what I love about people right now too, is aside from being open, I'm seeing people being humble.
Yes.
And admitting that they don't know all the answers. right? And it's okay to not know all the answers. Like you said earlier, we don't
Right.
have to know all the answers, and but just be willing to do the work. And that's the thing, at least like move in that direction, right?
I agree. I love it. It's been such a fun journey for me. And I've
Mhm.
always been a people person, but now being a people person combined with this openness and willingness and desire to see and learn as much as I can about all people for all the ways that they are.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool. It's like all of a sudden all these people exist, and it's like seeing this beautiful rainbow that just lights up the world. So
Yeah.
for me, I get really excited about that, and I love asking, asking someone a question, what fires you up? Like, what gets you excited? What is making you feel really great right now? And hearing the variety of answers and different experiences, and it has no bearing on any external factor or family heritage or whatever, but sometimes it plays a part of it, and it's fascinating. I love hearing people's stories. To me, that's really intriguing and one of the best parts of being a person, a human.
Totally. And
Right?
when you hear other people's stories, it takes you out of what you think is just the entire world. You realize that this is just my small little bubble right here, but there's a lot more going on out here, and it's cool. And it also just connects us. When you
Right.
hear other people's stories, you realize like just the blessings that you have or that you don't, but you realize that you can learn and you can grow in the process, and you don't
Yes.
have to be, just kind of, I remember, I don't know if you experienced this or not, but when I was in college, right? I went to school, like I would say from, pretty much the whole entire time I was in college, I was around the same people, and we
Yeah.
were always together. And I mean, by the time we got to senior year, I was like ready to get the hell out of there. I was like, okay, I can't, the people that were just so content with just where they were and just very comfortable. These were going to be the sweethearts that get married and all of this. And I just felt like they got into that Midwest sort of mentality. And
Mhm.
I was born and raised in, and I just never was, I couldn't see myself there. I just knew there was more and there was growth. But
Right.
now more people are doing that. Now more people are saying, wait a second, I want to see what else is out there. And that's
Right.
what 2020 has done, I feel like.
Yeah, it's cracked open a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
right? Well, one thing I'm curious about. So you had this, experience that you talk about as an immigrant experience growing up, right? Being born in the U.S., but you've got immigrant parents, and you never felt like you fit in. You
Mhm.
experienced this bullying, etc. What is life like for your son who grows up now in California with a mom who is so consciously aware and speaks outwardly about it, so caring for her son? What does his world look like?
Oh my God, I am blessed. First of all, that's all I have to say because I hit the jackpot with my son. I mean, I learned from him. He's way smarter than me. Let's put that out there. Like seriously, he is like so awesome. No, you know what? He is just. I mean, how do I describe him? He's centered, balanced. He's just very comfortable. He's curious, but he's not like super curious where it's like a curiosity, like how do I get out of here or how do I get in trouble? It's just more like the normal, I feel like, curiosity level, where I feel like most kids are at a different sort of place. It's this level of centeredness that he has. When he was born, somebody said that he looks like an old soul.
Mm,
Right. And I don't know if I told you this. I don't think I've told you this before. I've talked about it in some of my trainings, but he was in my belly when my father passed away.
no, you didn't tell me this.
Yeah. And so me and him were in the hospital with my dad for 10 days while he was in my belly. And so my dad would sing to him. My dad would tell him stories and jokes. And so when he came out, like he literally looked like my dad. The
Oh my
ear,
God.
see my ear, like how it sticks out. That's my
Mm,
dad. He's got the same ear, the same nose, like the same structure and the same personality, like that centeredness, that balance, like
yeah.
just a super like wise person. That's how I could talk about him for days. So you're probably like, when is she going to stop talking?
No, I love it. But it's all part of the journey, right? And it's part of the path. And of course, it's not a coincidence that he is who he is. But what a beautiful time for him to grow up. And I'm sure your dad is with him always and with you. And just seeing, I'm sure I can imagine just the level of pride
Mm,
and love, right? And this huge transition from the generations through your son. That's
Absolutely.
beautiful.
No, my dad is like totally shining down and like super
Amazing.
happy. Yeah. With just like with him, and I think with me, with the way my life has turned out now too, you know, just that I think he can always sense that there was something missing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in my life. And like I've been saying this a lot more, like it's so important to surround yourself with the right people. And I
Yeah.
think that as I was kind of growing up and going through law, you know, working for the law firms and all of that stuff, I wasn't surrounded by people that were purpose driven. And I realized like I need to be surrounded by people that are purpose driven because it makes me, it brings out more of that in me. And that's why I'm more at home. Right. So yeah, anyway.
Well, you are for sure a beacon of light, and I see it coming out of you and in the work you do, but also just in being who you are. And I love that about you, which is what attracted me to you. So I know that that's what attracts others to you as well.
Thank you. You know, I look at you and I'm saying, I could say all of that right back at you. I look at you the same exact, that mutual respect is there for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, I want to ask some quick fire questions. These are always fun, top of mind. So just to get a little bit more into your brain and understand more about kind of who you are, what you're all about. So we'll start off with number one. What are 3 words you would use to describe yourself?
3 words. Okay. So, resilient, outgoing, and extrovert.
I love it. That's why we connect so well. All right. Who is anyone, you can pick anyone in the world you would love to have a conversation with?
Oh God, that's easy. Okay. Barack Obama for sure.
Ah,
Yes, absolutely. I just think he's phenomenal.
yeah.
And, you know, I just watched the documentary he has, and I was like, it's by the photographer that took pictures of him. It's called Through the Lens, I think it's called.
Oh, I heard of it. I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Oh my God, you gotta watch it. But it shows you a side of him that I'm just like, that is somebody that I want to sit down and have a conversation with. He's amazing.
Okay, we'll start manifesting it.
Yes, I'm going
Yeah.
to.
Write that down. I love it. Because that's absolutely plausible. Absolutely, 100%. I can see that happening.
Yeah.
All right. What is your go-to self-care practice?
Showers, taking showers. Seriously, I mean, when I'm stressed out, when I'm feeling good, when I was pregnant with my son, like literally I was taking 8 or 9 showers a day. Like we were living with my in-laws.
It's fine.
We were living with my in-laws at the time. And I even told my father-in-law, like, I will pay for the extra water bill, but this like is what makes me feel like so good right now. And he just started laughing.
Are you a Pisces?
Scorpio.
Oh, I should have known that. My husband's a Scorpio.
Oh, really?
Well, Scorpio's a water sign, though. That makes sense.
Yeah. That's true. Okay,
Yeah.
we connect those.
Are you a hot shower or a cold shower kind of girl?
Shower. I hate cold water.
Yeah, I keep wanting to do that Wim Hof cold shower situation. I haven't quite embraced it yet. So, but I like to say that I go at lobster level in the shower.
You know what's so funny? How I met Simon was because he had posted that picture
about the cold showers.
He was in ice. He was like in a tub with ice, and I was passing by that, and I'm like, "Dude, you are out of your mind,
crazy." Yeah, I know. I don't understand the ice baths. I mean, I get it from the mental standpoint, but I don't think I could do it either.
No way.
Yeah. So, who do you admire and or look up to?
Yeah. You know, I think Brene Brown is amazing. I love the work that she does. So I'm glad that you mentioned her. I love watching her. You know, she's got a podcast now too. So I started listening to that. I just like her leadership. You know, that's a role model for me, like that positive leadership, that empathy, compassion, and just all of this stuff that I just love. So I would just have to say her. Yeah.
Her Dare to Lead podcast is so good.
So good.
So fun because she's so like raw.
I love it. I know.
I do too. She just like dives in and then she gets all into this. Like, I don't know all the answers, but I'm just going to ask the questions.
No, and she's hilarious too.
She is.
She's got a good sense of humor. So it's like down to earth where you don't feel like, you know, and she knows her shit for sure. Right. But like she boils it down to a point where it's like everybody can connect with her. I don't care if you've got a PhD or not or whatever, but everybody's tuning in when she's talking. I love her. She's awesome.
And talk about being humble.
She's awesome.
Right?
Totally. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, last question. My favorite question. What is something that makes you feel sassy as fuck?
I'd have to say my toes. Like having my
Ooh.
toes done, like my feet have to look really pretty. But if we're talking not from like a perspective of just physically, like what that would be, I would just say I think just I think being in a space where I can just be who I am and be comfortable with that, right? Be authentic. Like I don't like I'm not good to be like putting on different faces. Just when I can be with a person or a situation, where everybody's just being authentic. Like that makes me feel really, really good. Yeah.
I love that. Me too. I'm with you. That's why we get along so well.
Yeah, totally.
I love it. Well, I want you to tell everybody how they can connect with you, what you're up to, what's going on for you in 2021, if they want to do training with you. Tell us all the things.
Yeah, no, you've got the LinkedIn website, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm really huge on sharing information. Like I think there's just so much garbage out there that whenever I see a good article or a good resource that would be, on any of the topics that I train on, and I train on a lot of different topics. So you can just go to my website, www.trainextra, and there's no E in the extra. But on there, I've listed all the various topics, but I really firmly believe in civility in the workplace. So I do a lot of talking on unconscious bias, on civility in the workplace. I do all the harassment, anti-bullying type of training. Happy to reach out. And the other thing is too, I've been doing a lot of talking to a lot of people. So if you're looking for a resource and you're wondering like, is there somebody that can help me in the diversity and inclusion field on this topic or something like that, like don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to make introductions. You know this, Hallie. Like I truly think that we can use our networks to really help each other. So I'm happy to connect if there's anything that I can do for anybody out there.
I love that. Well, and you are an excellent connector. I know you've connected me to a bunch of people, and it's always fantastic. It's, I think that's also a really great superpower to have, is just being able to understand who people really are so that you can make that connection and say, oh, I think you need to talk to so-and-so because you're going to now connect in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Cool. Well, I'm so glad you were here, and it's always so fun to talk to you. You have so much great insight and wisdom, and you're just fun, and you just bring like your real true self into me. That's what this is all about. That's why I do this show. I do this show not to hear my own self-talk or to, for any sort of like 15 seconds of fame. It's really about how can I have valuable conversations with amazing people who are making an impact and making a difference and bring them to the forefront, but also just learn. Because for me, it's like I could write down all the questions and I could guess all your answers, but honestly, having your response to the questions and then seeing where it all goes, that's how I learn, and that's how I get to really step into what can I discover new about myself and the world around me. So for me, that's really fascinating. So I just thank you for showing up, being you, for being in my life. I love how we got brought together. It's beautiful, and I'm just so appreciative.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me as a guest, and really, really love the space that you're creating and the reasons why, like you just stated. I think it's important for us to be cheerleaders for each other and just kind of share our stories. I think the more stories that people hear, maybe there's something that's going to resonate with somebody that listens to this or one of your other episodes that could change their life. It can really change the trajectory of the life, like that whole butterfly effect thing. So
I love that.
Thank you again for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. All right, before we go, I want to pull an affirmation card for you from my deck. So let me shuffle it up.
All right, let's do this.
Okay. So I shuffled them. You tell me when to pull the card, and I'm pulling it.
Okay. Go.
Okay. Here it is. Well, this is so fitting for you.
What is it?
Where's my, hold on, I'm getting the glare. My inner glow shines so bright. There you go.
I love it.
That's so cute. That's right. That's exactly what we talked about.
That's what we spent the last half an hour talking about. So yeah.
The cards don't lie. The cards don't lie.
Seriously, thank you. That's awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Sejal. So fun to talk to you as always. I always look forward to our conversations, and thank you for doing the work you do. You guys, make sure you connect with Sejal. She's awesome. She's so fun. She knows everybody, and she just brings such a beautiful light to everything that she does. So please connect with her. Make sure you reach out on LinkedIn, send her a message, and make some connections. Thank you all for being here. Love you so much, and looking forward to being back in 2021 with more shows of Sassy AF TV Live. Don't forget to follow along. Make sure you check out the podcast. If you want to get your own deck of cards, they're available on my website, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.